Hi, my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel, Savage Reads. I hope you are all finding ways to stay cool because it is starting to heat up here. I am not quite ready for summer, but there's 2 more weeks of school, so we will get into a summer routine starting in a couple weeks. But I have read some fantastic books the past week, some really interesting ones that I have a lot of thoughts on. But before we get into that, quick crafting update. So I've been working on these baby onesies and I am getting very close to done. So this one, well, on this one anyway, here's this little baby onesie. It still needs buttons and it still needs the straps on the top, but this one's just about done. And then I have a blue one that I am going to do, and I think I might have enough extra yarn to make a striped blue and green one. I should be able to get these done pretty quickly. This has taken just over a week to do this project. So I am excited to have some nice homemade baby presents ready for some family members. But let's just jump into what books I have read this last week. So this first book was a recommendation from Caitlin at Bandy's Books, so make sure to check out her channel. And she recommended the book Fierce Ambition, The Life and Legend of War Correspondent Maggie Higgins. And this is exactly what it says it's going to be. It is a biography of this war correspondent, Maggie Higgins, and her life reporting in World War II and throughout the Cold War, and how difficult it was for her as a woman war correspondent, the way that she paved the way for a lot of other women to get into the field, and her life, her family, and her commitment to her work. Overall, I enjoyed it. I don't know if I got anything out of it that's going to stick with me forever, but I thought this was a really solid, really well done book, so I do recommend it. This next book was a recommendation from the channel The Cat Bite, so make sure to check her channel out down below. And this is The Urge, Our History of Addiction by Carl Eric Fisher. And this book was fantastic. It not only goes through the history of addiction and how we have tried to treat it as a society and how the definition has changed over time, but it also is a very personal book for the author talking about his own struggles with addiction. It really shows the complexity of addiction. It is not just one thing. It is not a lack of willpower. It is not just a societal ill. It is not just because a substance is addictive. It is a convergence of many different factors, and those need to be addressed in treatment because it is not just one thing. I thought it was interesting to see some of the steps that people have taken to try to curb addiction and how it is a thing that has been happening since the beginning of time, that people get addicted to substances, to gambling, to different things, and they cannot stop. And why is that? And so he delves into a little bit of the societal conditions that might cause it. He talks about the substances. He talks about the different things that might go on in your brain, the different treatments, and how sometimes they are counterproductive. I have often heard that, okay, so if you are an addict, you can't have one little bit of anything and you need to stay away from it completely. While when people choose that, it can be very helpful. I can also see his point that sometimes that's not the best goal for people, because then if they have, one sip of alcohol, they go and drink all of it because they feel like they have ruined their recovery, instead of being able to learn some form of moderation and get through what is going on in their lives that is difficult, that is causing this problem. And so looking at it as a problem that has many causes, but also that might have a more varied and nuanced solutions than we are willing to look at was really interesting. I liked kind of the conclusion that really our goals should probably be that people are improving. They're not perfect, but that people are improving and are able to have a good quality of life. And what can we do to support that instead of focusing so much on abstinence or criminalizing things, and I think that it was a very interesting approach and really worth looking into. So editing Hannah here. So I think mainly what I was trying to say is that focusing on things like risk reduction and understanding that recovery might look different for lots of different people is an important part in understanding addiction and how to help people. This was a 5-star book for me. I thought it was really fascinating and I do recommend it, but it is missing a few things. First off, it is very US focused. And so that is interesting. It is very much what the author experienced, and I understand why he approached it in that way. But if you are looking for a very broad look at addiction, I don't think you're going to get it. And along with that, it is very much focused on substances. Yes, he talks about other addictions, pornography and gambling. He touches upon those, but he never really delves into those as addictions, but very much focuses on substance use disorders. And so I do think if you are looking for a very broad, worldwide, all-encompassing kind of book about addiction, I don't think this is really it. But if you want to look at a little bit of the history of addiction, how it's been treated, especially in the United States, and where we should go from here, I thought this was a really interesting book and had a lot of good information and a lot of great ideas. So Scott at Gunpowder Fiction and Plot recommended the book Happiness Falls by Angie Kim. This book is following a Korean American family whose lives are thrown into turmoil when their father goes missing while he is out with their youngest brother, Eugene. Now, Eugene is nonverbal. He has a genetic condition called Engelmann syndrome, and he cannot express himself. And so they don't know what happened with the father. So this book kind of separates out into 3 separate books in my head. We have the mystery of what happened to the missing father. Where is he? What caused him to go missing? What was he doing in his life? So we have that mystery trying to solve the case. Then you have the discussion of what causes happiness, what is happiness, how do we maximize happiness? And that is told mostly through the main character looking through old notes of her father's and finding out that he was running these experiments to try to see how he could maximize happiness. So we have the murder mystery, the happiness discussion, and then we have the discussion of the youngest brother, Eugene, and his inability to communicate and what they can do about that. And so it separates out into kind of those 3 distinct parts in my head. I know they are all entwined, but I just feel like parts of it were successful and parts of it didn't quite come back together. And I think the part that was the most successful was Eugene's story and trying to understand what he is thinking when he has been unable to communicate the majority of his life. That and the treatment of people with disabilities, I just think that was a really strong storyline that I really connected to, and I thought it was really well done. Now, the mystery of the dad missing was frustrating and never fully fleshed out. And then the whole happiness research section felt almost like a red herring to throw us off what actually was going on in the rest of the book. I never really felt like it meshed super well for me. So overall, I enjoyed this book. I wanted to get to the end. I wanted to see how it came together. I wanted to know what happened, but I just don't know if it was as successful as I would have hoped. But I did think there were moments of really important discussions, and I did think the characters were well portrayed, so I'm a little on the fence with this one. It had its moments of being really good, but portions of the book just didn't quite mesh, and maybe it was just because I thought that I was getting into a bit more of a murder, thriller, mystery, something, and that never really panned out in a way that I found to be super satisfying. So I'm a little on the fence about this one, but it did have some really great moments. Now, when I was a teenager, I read Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte many times. It was one of my favorite books, really loved it. And I decided I wanted to share that with my kids. Am I a little crazy for thinking I am going to read this entire long Gothic novel out loud to my 9-year-old and 5-year-old? Yeah, but I really wanted to read Jane Eyre and I want them to get involved with it. So we read Jane Eyre. We finished the whole thing. I was shocked at how into it the children were. I have read many books to my 5-year-old, and sometimes I don't think she's quite getting everything that I say. And this one, she cared. She was involved. Every little thing was, who will Jane marry now, Mom? That's why she shouldn't have run away. That's why she should be back there. She was into this book. And so I was surprised. The 5-year-old loved it. The 9-year-old seemed to be pretty on board. Reading Jane Eyre as an adult. Did I love it? Yes. Were there things that as an adult I caught that as a kid I didn't really? Also, yes. And most of it is just the prejudices and the ideas of the time really bleed into the writing. And I didn't catch that as a teenager, and as an adult, I think, oh, that was classist. There is a lot of classism in here. Not in a societal structural, that's how it's written sort of way, although there is that too, but in a, you can tell the author's opinions about the lower classes kind of bleed in. And so you have a little bit of that. You have some racism, and the discussions on mental health are very, very painful to read. As someone who has had my own mental health struggles, the thought of living in this time and being described the way that Mr. Rochester was describing people, ooh, that is rough. So we have that going on, and it's very of the time. I understand. I remember it being such a wonderful romance, and reading it again as an adult, you think they have a 20-year age difference. Ooh. And I do appreciate that the author recognized that really strong power imbalance and made steps to rectify it by the end. I think that that is well done, but yes, I feel like it hit a little less romantic as an adult versus as a teenager. But what remained true in this book is just the moral strength of Jane. And what a strong person she was. Yes, she was a woman of this time period, didn't have a lot of rights, and she still stuck with what she believed to be true and kept her moral conscience clean. And I just really admire that. I knew that that was what I was most looking forward to sharing with my girls, is the strength that Jane shows through this book, and I was not disappointed. So I loved that. Overall, I love this book. Do I want to go back and read this out loud again? No. Reading this out loud, it is so description heavy. I think this book is much better enjoyed in your head versus reading it all out loud, because it did take forever. But I had a good time, and now we are watching an adaptation. The one that I could find was the 2011, and so I'm watching it with my girls in 20-minute increments. If you have a favorite Jane Eyre adaptation, let me know in the comments down below, because I have seen quite a few, but it has been many years, and I would like to maybe try a few out, see which ones stay true to the book, which ones change things up, and if they do, is it for the better or for the worse? I would like to maybe compare and contrast a few of the movies, but I am enjoying the 2011 one so far. I don't think I've ever seen this version, and so we're about halfway through right now. So overall, Jane Eyre was a fun experience. I highly recommend the book. It is just one of those classics that really sticks with you.
Just another quick note from editing Hannah. So I am really glad that I read Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green before rereading this book, because Helen Burns is that perfect archetype of the tuberculosis patient with the added moral abilities and wasting away so beautifully in life. And I thought it was interesting to see that trope in play.
And that is what I have read or finished in the last week. If you have thoughts on these books, let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you all on the next one.